So you guys might have heard the big news that Mark Bell, creator of the Slingshot, he ran the Power Project podcast, which is pretty popular. He ran Power Magazine for a while. He's a pretty big fixture in the fitness community, not just being a powerlifter, but branching out in other fields, networking with so many people. And love him or hate him, he is a very well-known name. He got kicked off, not demonetized, not suspended, not some of his videos removed. He got kicked the F off YouTube. See ya, sayonara, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And I want to talk a little bit about what it means. There's so many questions this creates. There's people that get scared, they get angry. There's people with all kinds of reactive feelings about the platforms, the powers that be, and what's going on. So I want to talk about why he got kicked off, a lot of the things that are being said, what I think is true, what I think is not true, and then a little bit of a discussion about speech in general, these platforms, what my beliefs are, and what the state of YouTube is for creators in general, myself included. So let's get into it.
I've been able to keep up with some high-level experts that we've had on the show and get inquisitive with them and get in deep and get past the baby talk on a lot of stuff. And it's for one reason. It's because of YouTube. It's because for a decade and a half, I've been researching stuff and looking up stuff on YouTube. When somebody says they've been researching stuff and they're not a scientist and they're not a doctor, they pretty much mean that they fucking Googled something or that they YouTubed it, right? Now when their sink gets messed up, their toilet gets backed up, they're not sure how to fix it. It needs more than just a plunger. Where do you go? You go to YouTube. Anytime there's any situation, any how-to. People no longer read those books, Cooking for Dummies and stuff like that. They go on YouTube and they look it up. You want to do the carnivore diet, you YouTube it. And you get experience from other people that have done it. You want to learn how to cook meals for a carnivore diet. You do some searches and you find someone like Maria Emmerich and you learn how to cook these amazing carnivore meals. You learn how to make a carnivore bread. Where do you learn how to do that? You learn how to do it on YouTube. And to have YouTube strike me down the way that they did and strike down Mark Bell's Power Project is shocking in a lot of ways. And I'm not shocked easily.
Well, Mark, I would say it's not that shocking at all for all the reasons you said. He was going off on what research is. People use YouTube for research. He's absolutely right. And he seems to think that's overwhelmingly a good thing because of all of the easy access information people have. And it certainly is good. That's certainly a benefit. I know I use it for all kinds of things. So good, useful, consequential information is disseminated more easily. That is a benefit. Nobody can argue with that. But he's not thinking about it from the flip side, which is YouTube isn't research. Those are not the same thing. What that research usually does, you might pick up some useful information, but it exposes you to people that you like that maybe aren't vetted. Maybe they got selected for because they're good speakers or they're popular for whatever reason. And people proceed to form their worldview around what they're exposed to. It's one thing if you're talking about working on your car, fixing a light switch, or baking some goddamn cookies. It's a different thing when you're talking about highly complex topics that require a very measured tone, that require checks and balances. You have to continuously revisit. And the first couple of times you pass over it, you're not going to get the full picture. Medical science, nutritional science, even training, politics, economics, social stuff. These are things where it's being selected for, not how good or right or correct it is, but how easily does it get to your brainstem? YouTube specifically, like any other algorithm, it selects for the thing that gets a rise out of you. So even if it's true information, it gets presented in a way that can still be used as a form of a lie because it's sensationalized, it's twisted, it's focusing on the negative thing. It's forcing people to turn their blinders off to all of this stuff in favor of the couple of things that are really going to get under your skin. That is a problem. So, I mean, I'm raising an eyebrow a little bit at Mark, given somebody that does have this platform and has a certain amount of responsibility, that he hasn't really considered this, that he just thinks of it as like, oh, it's YouTube, it's great. This is where people go to get an education. Like, there's a part of that that's good. There's a big part of that that is inevitably going to be a big problem across the board. And it doesn't matter your political leaning. This is something that should bother everybody. And if it doesn't bother you, you're not thinking about it hard enough. And we're going to get to that. I'm going to get into the weeds about what the real problem is and how we get to the bottom of it. I mean, I'll save you the suspense. I honestly don't think there is a clean answer given the type of power that YouTube has, the selective power it has to pluck somebody out and make them famous off of nothing other than their ability to get a rise out of somebody else. I don't see how that bodes well without severe restrictions. And I think it's going to ultimately require us to change our ideas, our expectations, our definitions of what free speech is, given the fact of a platform that allows people to engage with the entire world in this very specific, selective way. But let's see if Mark's going to get into exactly why he got canned.
You guys know I practice equanimity, being even, and I'm still even. This isn't moving me too far one way or the other. However, I think it's an injustice. I think it's bullshit because we didn't get a warning. We weren't aware of an infraction. They just pulled us. And I'm not looking for anybody to cry with me, and I'm not crying myself. And then nowadays we have like a team, we have like a squad, and so we were able to poke around, and I think we ended up finding some dude off the internet that poked around enough and found out why we got canceled, or whatever you want to call it. And it's because we had a link in one of our podcasts. I have a newer podcast that I do with my buddy Kenny Williams, a young bodybuilder, and we call that podcast Anabolic Activities, which, hey, there ain't nothing wrong with that. Things being a little anabolic, right? But I guess YouTube has a policy against directing people to any links where there's potential stuff being sold there that doesn't have a prescription. So to me, in my conspiratorial ways, I kind of think it's a little bit of a big pharma thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to get struck by lightning or if this feed's going to get shut down. But I think that's where some of it stems from. And it sells some peptides and stuff like that, but peptides are pretty benign. And a lot of the stuff on this website I wouldn't deem as being like harmful. But anyway, I mean, again, it's just small, weird details. And I could see an argument from their side. I could see their perspective. And I think that's the key here, is the perspective. Not their perception, but the perspective. The perception is, oh, Mark Bell, he's been talking about steroids forever. His stuff must have got ripped down for talking about steroids. That is what happened. But to keep a clean perspective on it, I think we have to think outside of that for a second. We have to think, what's fair? People talk about steroids all the time. I'm the first one. I'm the original. I'm the OG. The perception would be that I promote the use of anabolic steroids, and I don't. And I don't condemn it either. I'm right smack dab in the middle. I have perspective on it. Some people want to use it, and some people like it because they like the gains that they're going to get. Do I think it's healthy? No. No, I don't think it's healthy. Not even in the promotion of somebody trying to up their testosterone levels. I don't really think it's that healthy. I do hire the people that are in place for that. And I never communicated any of that to anybody, so that's on me. And I never read the fine print, so that's on me. You know, I think it's important to take full ownership. Whose fault is it? It's mine. But I think that there's going to be more positive than negative out of this, and I think there's no such thing as bad press. You've seen Vince McMahon navigate that over the years with the WWE. And I've been reached out to by a lot of big podcasts to come on their show and to discuss this situation because a lot of people are pissed and they're worried about their freedom of speech getting yanked from them. And again, YouTube is a business. YouTube is an establishment. I understand that while we do have freedom of speech, there's got to be some laws. There's got to be some rules. And within the confines of a company, such as YouTube, a big company, they have to have a lot of rules probably, right? And those rules need to be diligently written and interpreted and reinterpreted. And so what I'm asking for is that they start to reinterpret some of the rules that they have down, because without a warning it just seems like it doesn't seem like it makes any sense, I guess I'll say. Rather than saying it's unfair, it makes me sound like a baby. It's part of my story, but I love steroids. I'll be on and off them probably the rest of my life. I said in that film, and it's something I got into, and now to try to switch things up or to move away from it at this time would be very difficult. But it's something I might entertain in the future. You never know. Maybe it'd be less reasons for me to get banned or canceled. I feel honored. I feel honored that I'm even on anybody's radar enough.
Guys, if I can help fund this channel and help you solve a problem, I call that a win-win. So please allow me one moment to preach the good word of Boostcamp. I tend to get a little complex when I'm writing workout plans. Tracking progress for these programs is hugely important, but options were never great. I would write these long, complex progressions by hand into a notebook, or I would carry a binder filled with spreadsheets I printed off of LiftVault. That's why I'm here to introduce you to Boostcamp. Boostcamp is the easy way to track training progress directly from your phone. Their library of programs features countless dozens of powerlifting and hypertrophy-specific programs from your favorite creators, including Jeffrey Verity Schofield, Johnny Candido, Eric Helms, Greg Nuckols, Alberto Nunez, and of course, yours truly. Boostcamp also has exclusive programs that you just won't find anywhere else. Select the one best suited to your needs and watch the sets, reps, weights, and exercises populate automatically. Don't guess at that one weight you lifted that one time for how many reps again? Have your log of training with you at all times for easy reference in the convenience of your phone. Not only does Boostcamp have a stellar product, but their support is the only reason this channel exists. So thank you, the viewer, and thank you to Boostcamp. Check it out today. The link is in the description. All right, so we hear Mark going back and forth just a little bit. It sounds like he's waffling because he says a couple of things one way or another. He's worried about free speech, but also it's a company, they can do whatever they want. Those tend to be kind of opposite sides of the argument here. And then he talks about like, oh, I've never promoted steroids, and he talks about their harms. But then at the end, he's like, well, I love steroids. It's like, okay, at what point is it promotion? Do you have to be actively telling somebody like you should be taking steroids before it counts as promotion? But he seems measured. He seems like he has a clear head. It's just it's a very complex topic to try and wrap your head around, and he's battling the hurt feelings that I would feel too. My channel is in not as much as at stake with my channel, and it's not as big as his was, and I would be devastated if that happened. I would be like kind of swinging my fist at the air. But he's saying, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. Responsibility's on me. I should have read the fine print. And I agree with that. You got people to do work for you. You got to make sure that you're not in violation of anything. So it seems like this link was a big thing, or at least that's what they were willing to cop to, as opposed to him actually talking about it. A lot of people talk about steroids. Derek for More Plates, More Dates, Greg Doucette, a lot of people talk about steroids. So I don't know if the tide is shifting. I don't know if it had to do with this particular website. He's in his own mind saying, well, SARMs aren't really anything, and I don't think this stuff is dangerous. If you had a website with this huge following and you were promoting this website that was selling things that aren't legal or that were dangerous or brought liability, that's something you have to be aware of, and it sounds like he wasn't. So I'm not sure it has to do with him advocating steroids, but it does bring up the question, like, where is the line? Do I want this platform that exists that everybody's on to be able to select for people that are aggressively promoting steroid use? If I plugged in heroin, like oxy use, if I plugged in like degenerate gambling habits, I mean, all the Bitcoin stuff, that's a great example. You have people losing their ass following all of these Bitcoin channels. How much responsibility exists? Because in the day of the television, there was a lot. The FCC regulated everything. So we're in this weird spot where people want to treat YouTube like it's a telephone, it's a utility, and everybody needs it to communicate. But on the other hand, the telephone doesn't rely on advertising revenue. The telephone doesn't reach out. You don't have the potential through the phone to reach 10 million people in one single moment. So it's like this blend where you kind of need television broadcast rules, but applied to the general person. And it seems when people are talking about free speech, they want the benefit of being able to communicate to the entire world without the responsibility that typically comes with that. And that's something I'm sensitive to. And I say that as somebody who has a lot of conservative views. I'm a First Amendment guy. I love that we have that in our Constitution in the States, where no other country does, or no Western country does, even though they have the spirit of it. It's not written in, and that leaves them vulnerable. And you see a lot of bullshit laws getting passed because that's not something that stalls that overreaching. But we're also in this age of technology, and to pretend like there isn't a threshold where potential consequences override your ability to get online and say to a huge group of people what you want to say, I don't think that's a rational case. Everybody I've ever come across who says they're a free speech absolutist still has a line in the sand where speech is not absolute. I don't think I've ever met somebody that thinks you should be able to lie or slander people. I don't think I've ever met anybody that says, yeah, free speech absolutist. I think you should be able to incite violence. If it's speech, it counts. That doesn't make any sense to anybody. And it's not like those are some self-evident, like ingrained in the stars. Obviously, that's an exception. It's like, no, the precedent is you can speak, but if there is very, very obvious destruction in the real world caused by your speech that we can point to, if it's easily definable, if it's consistent, and also if there really isn't anything at stake, like we're not losing out as a society by not being able to lie about people. We're not losing out as a society by not being able to incite violence. We're worried about pushing back against authority, because there we can lose something if we restrict that. We're worried about being able to engage in controversial arguments, because society does lose out if we limit that. So it's this balance of what we need, what is necessary to have an intelligent, productive, active society that's engaging with hard problems versus the obvious caps we need so that shit can't run afoul. So the bottom line is it sounds like they got a little too comfortable promoting shit they shouldn't have been promoting, and it got them axed, and that's just what it is. As far as my take on this, I feel people should always be vigilant. We should always be looking at where the line is and making sure it doesn't go too far. Not a single one of us could come up with the policy that works for everybody or that is complete. It's the tension. So people are going to be pushing one way, we're going to be pushing back in another, and we find something that we can live with in the middle. That's really the best we can do. I'm not worried, because at this moment in time, I really feel like you have to be fighting traffic in the street with your dick hanging out for YouTube to kick you off. I don't believe for a second that there is some massive conspiracy. There's people that were trying to say it was like political or something. I don't believe that for a second. Most of YouTube is conservative. The biggest channels are aggressively talking about everything from COVID to steal the election. There's a lot of channels supporting Trump. Everything is anti-woke. I've had people talk to me that think if you say coronavirus or talk about COVID, that your channel gets axed. That is not even remotely the case. I've talked about it. There's major debates. You look at like Brett Weinstein's channel, like there's major channels talking about this stuff very aggressively, and they're fine. I think you really have to do recklessly step over the line as of right now. I would still tell people to be vigilant. I would still tell people to engage with this question. But if I were you, I wouldn't tell anybody to spend too much time thinking about what they think is true before they try to stretch themselves to understand where that could go too far. Because for every rule, there has to be a counter to it, or else shit spirals out of control. This is not an easy topic to grapple with. It is not as easy as Mark Bell was unfairly struck down for no reason whatsoever. And he even recognizes there has to be lines in the sand. There has to be. So he was pretty reasonable about it. I like the fact that he took ownership. It wasn't reading the fine print. I think that's what it is. And I am sympathetic to the idea that maybe they shouldn't just axe you without any warning or discussion. I think especially once you reach a certain threshold, there should be liaisons. However, this type of stuff really only does happen to the bigger channels. And if you're a bigger channel, get your shit together. If you're hiring guys to edit your stuff, you should have somebody on staff who can read the fine print, who can say, hey, we're dealing with some kind of weird stuff. Where are we okay? Where do we need to dance around? Everybody does. But anyways, that's my take. This is a controversial topic. So let me know what you guys think. I would like to see Mark come back because I don't think he was a super egregious offender. But, they got to make an example out of somebody, because I know for me and for everybody else, we are not incentivized to try to think twice about what we put up. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that creators have to measure themselves a little bit as they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Any one of you thinks that free speech is in jeopardy, grab a sign and a megaphone, stand on a public corner. See who's coming for you. It's different when you have access to millions of people in their homes. Like, it's just different, and it has to be different. Where that line is, I have no idea, but I'm going to say neither does anybody else watching this. So I don't know. We'll see how this unfolds in the future. And I think it's really going to be the chips are going to fall where they are, and we're going to have to figure it out as we go. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that think I'm an idiot. This is somewhat of a political topic, so I'm sure I'm going to get a sea of comments about how I'm an idiot because I was too lenient, or I'm an idiot because I didn't go far enough. Let it rip, guys. Let's see what it is. I'm sure we're going to find the solution to all our problems in the comments, and I'm eager to see the many paragraphs you type telling me what's what. So let's do it. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.